Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight's video is entitled My Preta, Black Mother, Statue and Painting. Is it an homage or symbol of servitude of Black women? Now, just a little background before I get into this video. Um, I first started visiting the city of Sao Paulo in 2008 during Brazil's Black Consciousness Month of Black Consciousness in November of 2008. And I always say I like to go to, when I was visiting, I would always go, I would like to go in November when I found my first, the first 7 years of visiting Brazil were mostly in the Northeast, in Bahia. But when I saw all of the festivities that were going on during the month of Black Consciousness in Sao Paulo, I says, I got to find out what's going on in Sao Paulo. It's kind of similar to, Black History Month in the United States, just festivities, every day throughout the year, the seminars and speeches, there's, Afro-Brazilian vendors selling their goods and their products at Black-oriented events. There's all sorts of, historical events, shows, dance. If you're interested in Black history in Brazil, November is always a great time to be there. So my first trip to Sao Paulo, well, anytime I would go to Bahia, I would have to take a flight to Sao Paulo. At the time, that was the only flight that was available, either Sao Paulo or Rio. And then I would have to catch a connection flight to Bahia. But starting in 2008, I would go to Sao Paulo every year. And so when I stayed in Sao Paulo for 3 weeks in 2008, my the reason I was there, I wanted to see, all of the stuff that I had been seeing on the internet in terms of the festivities that go on with the month of Black Consciousness. So was another, as I'm always on social networks, or not always. I spend I'll check into social media from time to time just to see what people are talking about. And somebody brought up something today that I've been wanting to talk to for a number of years. I'm quite sure I made a couple of references to this on the blog over the years, maybe at least a couple times, but I always wanted to do a video about this. And I saw a particular post today on Instagram and I say, yeah, I got to cover this now and put it in video format. So again, Mãe Preta in Portuguese to English, it means Black Mother. And there's a statue, a famous statue in Sao Paulo, and there's a famous painting from Rio de Janeiro. And, the question are these images of the Black mother an homage? Do they homage the Black woman, or are they a symbol of the servitude of Black women, the position that Brazilian society has traditionally reserved for Black women? So let's get directly into this video, and I'll break this down a little bit more. So these are the images that I'm talking about. On the left, you have the painting, Mãe Preta, and on the right, you have the statue, Mãe Preta. I was just talking about my 2008, when I first started visiting Sao Paulo. I was looking for the Black presence. Just, what is the image of Black people in Sao Paulo? Where are they located? I just wanted to get an idea, because I was accustomed to visiting Bahia, where you just, most people consider Bahia to be like the Black cultural center of the whole country, the state of Bahia, specifically the capital city of Salvador. But in terms of just, we'll say, the struggle, every state that has Blacks in Brazil, you see the struggle in every state. But because Sao Paulo is the economic engine of the country, it seems to be, it's just, there's so much more that seems like it's going on in Sao Paulo. And maybe that's not true, but everything that I had saw on the internet, I wanted to just visit Sao Paulo. So if you go to, Sao Paulo is a huge metropolitan city. I think just Sao Paulo itself, there's about 12 million people there. If you talk about metropolitan Sao Paulo, we're talking about over 20 million people. There's plenty to do in Sao Paulo. There's plenty to see. You see statues all over the city. The freeways are crazy. I look at Sao Paulo like, it's kind of like Brazil's New York. if anything that you're looking for in Brazil, if you can't find it in Sao Paulo, it's probably not there. So, you'll have a good time in Sao Paulo if you know what you're looking for. Um, so plenty of areas in Sao Paulo I was interested in visiting. So I would spend a lot of time in this area in the downtown of the city called it was called the Largo de Paysandu. And it's like near the Republica area downtown. And I just remember seeing the Mai Preta statue every time I would go down there. And at the time I wasn't sure what I was looking at. In the background, there was this yellow painted church, and people would tell me, what the significance of these things were. So this statue and the painting is what I'm going to be talking about today. And before I even get into this, I want to define a couple of the pictures that I included in this article today, because the image of the Black woman is something that I want to talk about, and why I'm covering this particular video or this particular article today, racist depictions of Black women. Let me just show you a couple before I get directly into this article. The depiction of Black women is something that, Black Brazilian women have complained about for years. And, while, as I've said for a long time, Brazil always points to the United States as the most racist country in the world, look how you treat Black people. And then Brazil has its own history of derogatory images of Black people and, brutality against the Black population. I've talked about that throughout the existence of the blog as well as the video channel. These are just some images. 1924, 1950, 1995. These are images depicting Black women. This one's, Maria Fumaça. Then you have one called Nega Maluca, Lamparina. These are images of what Black women are supposed to look like, right? Caricatures. If anybody remember the Spike Lee movie Bamboozled, Brazil played its own role in this. Just look at some of these images that they see. This is supposed to be a Black woman, and you have a Black woman and a Black man. Brazil clearly participated in, racist depictions of Black people. Even today, with the emergence of this obsession with blackface in Brazil, this is a Carnaval group in the city of Niterói called O Bloco de Nega Maluca. Nega Maluca means the crazy Black woman. And every year, this Carnaval group parades around with they'll have red lipstick on, have their faces painted black, big black, curly afros they'll wear, and it's all in fun, they say, until Black women, sometime around between 2007 2011, Black women was just like, this is enough. This is racist, and people, oh, we're just having fun. What are you talking about? There's no racist content. We don't have any racist intentions here. So it became a battleground for, this obsession that Brazilians seem to have for wearing blackface. On the blog, you'll see that just numerous incidents of blackface, and I just wonder, where's all of this coming from? So anyway, I want to get into specifically this question of the Mai Preta. Now, Mai Preta, again, it means Black woman, but it's also today, and for several years, it's also been a stereotype. The Mai Preta, in some ways, the way the stereotype is presented is somewhat equal to like the Aunt Jemima figure, in American cultural history, right? So let's talk a little bit about this Mai Preta, okay? So this is the image that was taken from a museum in Rio de Janeiro. I think the painting is from 1912. So what does it mean? Let's just take a look at it real quick. I got the idea for covering this particular topic today. As I said, every time I would go to Sao Paulo, I would always visit the Mai Preta statue. It was something the same way that you look at the images you'll see in a movie, the images you see on TV. When you look at statues, some of them are quite imposing. Sometimes they can be a little scary. Sometimes it's just something just fantastic about looking at statues. And there's plenty of them in Sao Paulo, and if you remember some years ago, there was a lot of people, whether in Europe and the United States, and they were knocking over all of these statues that they considered to be homages to racists. And, you had some of this going on in Brazil, particularly a few years ago, where these people set fire to this enormous statue of this guy who was considered he was a racist slaveholder. He was a genocidal killer. Okay. But I'm not going to talk about that now. The point is, where are the depictions of Black women? As it turns out, The Mai Preta statue in Sao Paulo is the only statue depicting a Black woman in the entire city out of maybe hundreds of statues that you'll find across the state, across the city, rather. And this is the only depiction you have of a Black woman, and she's in a position of servitude, breastfeeding a white baby. So let me get into this. I found this post today by Camila Pimenta, and I just wanted to, I wanted to cover what she was talking about. So she says she's describing the image that she sees in this painting. Okay. The young Black woman is sitting on the floor. She is young, tall, burly, with strong arms and big feet. She is breastfeeding a white baby while looking at a Black baby lying next to her. She looks melancholy, perhaps resigned. The Black child is attentive to his mother as if waiting for his turn to drink his mother's milk. Right. So here you see her own Black child on the floor while she's nursing the white child. Okay. Mai Preta, meaning Black mother, was made 2 decades after the law that officially abolished slavery in Brazil in 1888. The author Lucilio G. Albuquerque from Piauí, the state of northeastern state in Brazil, exhibited the work for the first time at the 1912 Salon of Fine. I would say the Room or the Salon of Fine Arts in Rio de Janeiro is part of the collection of the Museum of Art of the state of Bahia. There's no need to go on and on about the historical facts relating to the milk nannies. The art speaks for itself. Present day colonial Brazil. So these were a few of the words that she thought of as she looked at this image of the Black woman, nursing a white baby while her Black child lays on the floor waiting his turn. Then you get into the Mai Preta. Again, when I first started visiting Sao Paulo, I would see this all the time. And then I moved to Sao Paulo in 2012, and I would spend a lot of time in downtown Sao Paulo. I would always pass this statue, getting to Paysandu and the Galeria. It's a huge shopping center there. So September 28th was recognized as the Day of Gratitude to the Black mother. Okay. The expression Mai Preta, again, meaning Black mother, is traditional. It comes from the period when enslaved Black women breastfed the children of white women. In order to serve the white women, the mucamas, or wet nurses, had to be beautiful and clean. Given the social importance of the Mai Preta and the symbolic meaning of her figure, in the 1920s, Sao Paulo Black movement, led by journalist José Correia Leite, the director of the O Clarim da Alvorada newspaper, a Black press newspaper, started a campaign to erect a monument in honor of women who were double mothers. On the one hand, fulfilling the mission dictated by nature, on the other, obeying the impositions of the harsh regime of slavery, said another activist, the journalist Aristides Barbosa. So this is José Correia Leite, a journalist, and he was a prominent figure in what was called the Frente Negra Brasileira, the Black Brazilian Front, one of the first large-scale Black organizations in Brazil fighting for the rights and the equal rights of Black Brazilians. And this is the newspaper, O Clarim. This is a picture of José Leite right here. The idea of the Black activists was to establish September 28th, the day of the promulgation of the Free Womb Law of 1871, to pay homage to the Black mother. To this end, a monument to Black people would also be erected, represented by the figure of the Black mother. On the pedestal would be inscribed symbolic images of the contribution of Blacks in the process of the formation of Brazil. So the Free Womb Act of 1871, as they started moving to a complete abolition in 1888, abolition of slavery, there were laws that were set in place that came before the official abolition of slavery. And one of them was the law of the free womb in 1871 that said children that were born of slaves were automatically born free. Now, this is like one view of the Mai Preta statue, and then here's the zoom, the close-up of the statue. Every time I would see that statue, I was just kind of curious about, the facial features of the statue. They just weren't like, it didn't seem like it was meant to give a real depiction of a Black woman. It was almost like, and somebody else saw the same thing, it was kind of like a caricature. Like whoever did this painting, and we already, I think the name, we'll see the name later on here, but it didn't seem like they really cared too much about developing the distinct features of a Black woman in this statue. So it always just kind of bewildered me. It's still a, eye-catching statue, but it's just, when you look at it, it's just like, okay, what are they saying here besides the fact that you have the black slave mother breastfeeding the white child? Okay. It's something that you have to see, come to your own conclusion. But this is what you heard what the first woman said in talking about the painting. This is kind of the same thing I'm seeing with this statue in Sao Paulo. The theme, however, this making an honor a statue of black women, it lost momentum with Brazil's 1930 revolution. It was revived during the organization of the celebrations of the fourth centenary of the founding of the city of Sao Paulo in 1953. After much insistence from the Commission in Defense of the Monument, the inauguration became part of the fourth centenary celebrations. The then mayor, Jânio Quadros, opened a competition to choose the designer of the model, which was won by a sculptor with the pseudonym of Ibirapuera and built by Julio Guerra. The sculpture's modern features did not please journalist José Correia Leite. He envisioned a beautiful and well-groomed black mother, as wet nurses used to be, and not a deformation as was projected. So already back then, militants of the black movement in the 1950s, they had a problem with the way that this image was how it was made. They were disappointed with the image that was created of this black mother. The inauguration took place on January 23rd, 1955, at the close of the fourth centenary of the city of Sao Paulo. The choice of Largo do Paissandu to host the tribute to the Black Mother was due to the presence of the Igreja de Nossa Senhora do Rosário dos Homens Pretos, meaning the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary of Black Men, and the fact that since the church was built at the beginning of the 20th century, the square has been a reference point for Sao Paulo's Afro or African descendant community. So the church, when I started visiting here, a lot of people would tell me about this particular historical meaning of this particular church. Again, it'll be translated as the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary of Black Men. So that's the background, the church in the background behind this statue. The church was built free of charge by Black workers at the beginning of the 20th century. It was a meeting place for Blacks and slaves who celebrated Catholic rituals mixed with beliefs of Bantu origin. They also gathered there on May 13th, which is the day of abolition, and September 20th to celebrate their achievements. Now, again, May 13th was a day, for many years, it was celebrated, recognized as the day of the abolition of slavery, May 13th, 1888. Of course, the Black movement in the 1970s says we don't want to really celebrate that anymore. We prefer November 20th, the day that the Quilombo Maroon Society leader, Zumbi dos Palmares, was murdered. So they prefer, we haven't been fully given citizenship in this country. They feel like it's not a full abolition, so we're not going to celebrate May 13th anymore. So due to Sao Paulo's influence, September 28th was officially established as the Day of Gratitude to the Black Mother through Law Number 10.346 as of December 27, 1968. Now, this is another image I remember seeing, and I had forgot about this until I started doing some research about this video today. This woman named Taís Muniz, she climbed atop upon the pedestal of the statue and put this turban on the statue, as, an honor to the Black mother in Sao Paulo. Like I said, I remember, I don't remember particularly the year anymore, but I do remember seeing this online some years ago. And as I said, just putting together material for this video today, I kind of remember this, and I found the article again today. So with a lot of Black Brazilians going back and recognizing their history and destroying some of the myths that Brazil has tried to present to people outside of Brazil, and as well as in Brazil, that, racism doesn't exist in Brazil, they're going back and pulling back their figures, their representation, their heroes, and they're paying honor to some of these people. Obviously, the Mai Preta is not just one woman. It represents the role of Black women in Brazilian history. Just kind of like at that time, you saw a lot of Black women coming into this identity, and a lot of them took on, you see a lot of Black women wearing natural hair as well as turbans. So they're putting this large turban on this statue of the Black mother in downtown Sao Paulo. A lot of people have weighed in on what they think about this Mai Preta statue. The makers of the statue put it out there and said this was an honor to Black women. But Other people see it as the monument in Sao Paulo reduces Black women to servitude. So the woman in this video is Viviane Moraes of the Terra Brazil website. So I'm going to just read to you what she said in the video. She says, "Are you familiar with the Mãe Preta statue in Sao Paulo? For you, is it a tribute or a good reason to continue discussing gender and race in Brazil? Although it was created with the intention of paying homage to Black women, it has been criticized for years for being a symbol that reinforces racist and sexist stereotypes. The monument depicts a Black woman with caricatured features wearing typical slave clothing and breastfeeding a child with white features very different from her own." Now, I already talked about these images here, so I'm going to just keep going on with the article. It reduces these women to servitude, mere amas de leite or mucamas, meaning wet nurses, common in old school books. It ignores the suffering behind these activities and fails to portray others that were much more important at the time. It is also criticized for the context in which it was written during the military regime, when the issue of race was not discussed and discrimination was widespread in Brazil. Okay. Again, just remember, this is the only depiction of a Black woman in a statue form in Sao Paulo, and she's depicted as a wet nurse. This is, the Black mother statue. Like, of all the Black women in the country who have made contributions to Brazilian society, they choose one statue that you're going to find in Sao Paulo, and she's going to be a wet nurse, the stereotypical Black mother. Now, this brings to the fore that there's been a lot of talk of some new statues coming out in Sao Paulo and other cities that are going to depict more important Black historical figures in Brazil. Continuing with the previous video where, this particular piece comes from, it refers to servitude at a time when Black women were once again fighting for equality and resisting another regime of oppression, the dictatorship. To pay homage would be to celebrate the struggle and value of Black women in the past or present. It is essential that art and public spaces promotes the valorization of all identities, breaking down and not enforcing stereotypes. So what have they told you about our history? Anyway, the sources I use for today's video are the SEDAM Unesp website, the Terra Brazil YouTube channel, and Camila Pimenta's IG page. So curious to know what you thought about this particular article. There's so much more I could say about this particular statue. I think maybe in the future I'm going to do just a full video on some of these stereotypical images that you see of Black women. But as of right now, I wanted to close the video out, wanted to get an idea of what you all thought about today's material. Drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel. If you've seen more than a few videos that you liked here, click on the notification bell so that you'll be one of the first people to see my new videos as I post them. If you find something deserving on this channel, definitely consider dropping a few dollars in the Cash App, dropping a super thanks, or every little dollar that you contribute will be vastly appreciated. And with that said, I'm going to end the video here and request that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.